I'm very happy to welcome all of you here to this session, the first session of the TD Propelling Black Entrepreneurship webinar series, Crafting a Winning Business Plan. My name is Bernice, and together with the marketing team here, we have Tamara as well as Badra, who is on standby. We are very happy to welcome you here today. However, we also want to pay a special sense of gratitude to MNP, who is collaborating with us on this initiative. And to introduce MNP as expert today, I would like to introduce Tamara, who is our project coordinator for the TD Propelling Black Entrepreneurship Program. Tamara, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for the introduction, Bernice. Now, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing this evening's workshop presenter, who will teach us everything we need to know about business plans, Mr. Ben Ghirmai, Vice President of Corporate Finance at MNP, FACE's partner in the TD Propelling Black Entrepreneurship Program. So here's a little bit about Ben. Prior to joining MNP in 2023, Ben served as the VP of a boutique investment bank in Toronto, where he played a pivotal role in financial analysis, due diligence, and advisory, working with a wide range of clients. Ben has gathered extensive experience in areas such as capital raising at previous firms, where he occupied roles such as Chief Financial Officer and has sat on numerous public company boards, where he evaluated potential deal opportunities and facilitated go public transactions. Ben holds an exempt marker dealer license, his corporate finance certificate through CPA Canada, and earned his Bachelor of Commerce degree from Ryerson University. Thank you, Ben, for your availability and for this presentation. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tamara, and thank you, Bernice. Really happy to be here today, and welcome everyone on the line. I was going to run through this slide myself and introduce myself, but it always feels nicer hearing someone else say it. But yeah, super excited to be here. When I heard about this opportunity to get involved, it really sparked my interest, similar to a lot of people on the line. I came up through the same path with regards to just, understanding entrepreneurship, getting into finance and what it means to run a business and to grow a business. For me, myself, didn't directly jump into the entrepreneurship route. Instead, I took kind of the business and finance route to understand how businesses really work and, what works, what doesn't. And it all starts with an idea. So I think today on the line, we have various entrepreneurs from kind of different backgrounds of life and different stages of businesses. I think some people for the call today is going to be, they have an idea in their head or proof of concept, all the way to people who've been operating a business for, 5+ years and wondering, how do I expand it? How do I grow it? So just given the size of the cohort today, the game plan is really to, focus in on how to write, a fantastic and winning business plan, but then also in the context of, raising capital and going to market to raise capital for that business plan that you initially basically start off with. So with that being said, I did put together a few slides I'm happy to run through. And my format's very open floor. So, feel free to use the chat box below or at the end if you have any questions from a Q&A perspective, happy to answer anything. And super excited to be involved in a part of this. So let me just dive in now. So I just wanted to put together kind of an overview of the agenda today. And there's obviously other seminars where we're going to dive deeper into each kind of focus area of, the game plan of what we're trying to achieve. But from a high level overview of, writing a business plan, I try to summarize it into kind of these key 8 points. And I think, there's a slide and details on kind of every single point here. And all this to say is a business plan is always changing and it's always evolving. And I want everyone to have that kind of piece of mindset, right? As the world changes, your business plan changes. That doesn't necessarily mean every time you spend a lot of time and money and effort putting together a business plan, you have to go kind of reinvent the wheel. But the whole mindset around a business plan is to say, okay, here's our foundational roots. Like, here's what we want to achieve and here's our value prop. So So we'll go through kind of the agenda today of all the different things you really want to highlight a part of the business plan, but in the context of also remembering that it's forever changing and forever evolving. Most people who probably start off with a business idea, draft a plan and have a strategy and go to market or do a product launch, probably doesn't end up, 5 years later looking exactly what they initially started off with. I think most of the time what happens is they listen to their customers, they listen to the market, they listen to investors, and they're able to adapt and then kind of, change trajectory over time. So having that mindset is the key. And remember, a business plan might be absolutely fantastic for the end user that you intended to make the business plan for. But at the same time, for someone else you didn't intend to make the business plan for, they might be able to look at that and be like, hey, this is not within the scope. So just want to reemphasize that it's forever changing. And the idea of is to have strong roots or a foundation that then you can build off on. So I'll start with the executive summary. So every good business plan starts with an executive summary. Think about it from, everyone's busy in their life. Some people with kids, some people, going to work, whatever it is. The reason I wanted to highlight an executive summary is sometimes you don't really have a full chance to talk about your idea. Sometimes you're talking to a business partner, an investor, and you're on a call for maybe a half hour, or you run into someone in the elevator and you really just have 2 minutes. So an executive summary is typically what always starts. And what you're trying to do there is in a paragraph or less, or if you're talking out in person within, the 30-second elevator pitch, as people say, it's what do you do? How do you do it? And what makes you different? And then try to get that all within, call it 30 seconds or in a one-page document. And it's really hard, to be honest. An executive summary is probably one of the hardest parts to make of a business plan, I think, initially, because you're trying to take all these various ideas that you're working on or thought of, but then how do you condense that all into, a one pager or a 2-pager or something from that scope. So I put up here just a kind of an example of what a teaser would typically look like. And if you think about, what I have here is the 5 W's and the H, it's really who you are, what you do, why you do it, how you do it, and where you're located. So always have that context of, if you're talking about an idea or a prospect, people don't have time. Time is the one kind of quality that we all wish we had, but attention spans in the real world are not always there, right? It's not always the opportunity for you to really dive in deep. And so just from the context of a business plan, every single time you write one, you really want that executive summary to highlight exactly the messaging that you want to get across, or something to leave behind from that perspective, right? They're going to read this and immediately it's going to set the tone for the rest of the business plan. So you got to really focus on being very clear about your agenda and your value proposition and why you're, developing this business or product, for example. And then just going into the next slide here, company description. Try to put some general ideas here, but company description, most companies don't just do one thing. You guys could think of multiple companies you work with, or, think about whatever product or, kind of establishment you have for yourself. But a company description can also tie a lot into kind of the mission statement, right? And, if you're at the stage of crafting a business plan, it's probably telling the end user that, your early stage in your entrepreneur life or in your business. And really what they're looking for is 2 things. One is, what is the value? What is this entrepreneur try to achieve? And then being able to translate that into data and hardcore numbers, or a document that you could leave behind is great. But ultimately people invest in the idea and they invest in the mission statement and what you are trying to achieve in the market. And if you think about it from the context of, Nike, for example, Nike makes t-shirts and sneakers and etc. And then you go to Walmart and make the exact same thing. But one trades at an extreme premium versus the other one, what, you could get off the shelf. And really the difference is that brand loyalty, right? That company description over the time has spent, part of their business plan they wanted to just make more than clothes. What they wanted to make is a community. They wanted to make sports attire for really athletes. But then over time, they're able to build that brand and that mission and that vision of what their value prop was. And now they could charge that premium. And, you know, when they're Phil Knight, when he was initially drafting his probably business plan, you know, 50 plus years ago, he always had that mindset, right? Like if you watch his film, he always had that mindset. It wasn't about making the clothes. It was about that vision of like, hey, we want to be the best in what we do. And investors saw that, and investors said to themselves, okay, like we want to back someone who's the vision is there, and, you know, the mission plan and is so critical to, you know, allow you to win. And because what happens quite often, a lot of the times, it's people who come up with business plans, the first two questions is, A, has the person done it before? And, you know, typically the answer is either yes or no. If the answer is no, okay. And then second is, how far along, right? Have you, like, how do I know you're going to be successful versus 10 other people? So I think a lot of it comes down to building trust in a relationship, but just having a very clear value proposition and a competitive advantage, right? Like you really want to highlight that from the company description, like what makes you different. So in that situation of the Nike versus like a Walmart tee or like clothing brand, both of them could say, hey, we make clothes, right? But no, like one has a distinctive value proposition. We make clothes for aspiring athletes who want to, be top of their group or top of their cohort, for example. So just to summarize this slide really. So a very strong business plan has a strong business description where you're getting straight to the facts of exactly what the company's value and goals are. Mission statement or a value prop to just highlight, exactly why you're doing this and what your advantage is. And then, some of the supplementary other information is just kind of, the product and services, the strong customer relationships, and then, some of the growth opportunities within that kind of segment there. And then jumping into the third slide is market analysis. And this is where a lot of, as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of data out there. We live in a AI/data world now. But really what you want to focus on when it comes to market analysis is, so you have this great idea. You have your idea for your company description of what you want to do. But now you're going out to say, okay, like here's the total size of the market. So I think these four kind of, we have the TAM, total addressable market, SWOT or Porter's 5 forces, competitor analysis, and industry analysis. And basically your TAM is your total addressable market. So because we live in such a global world, you can't just do everything at once. So I'm going to give you, another example. Say you're selling, some software, for example. You have a fintech business, you're selling software, and then you ask yourself, okay, who could use this software? It's like, well, there's a global market. Everyone's now attached to a smartphone. They have accessibility to the internet, and that's great, right? So you could take your total addressable market, you could take the whole world, and then you could do some statistics, say, okay, who's from the age of 18 plus who has access to a smartphone, or 14 plus. But then you could even go deeper than that. It's like, okay, so I'm selling the software now. And then hypothetically, it's like, okay, I'm here based in Canada. So maybe my total addressable market, because all the AML and KYP and all the rules and regulation, only allows me to sell my software here in the Canadian market. And then you could go even deeper than that and say, okay, but I understand that Ontario laws and Alberta laws are completely different. So from that perspective, some regulators might have certain rules with regards to software sales, whereas other markets do not. So then you could go deeper and then deeper. I think you guys get the point, right? Like just understanding your total addressable market ties in a lot into kind of when you're making your forecast, right? Because a lot of people are making forecasts and saying to themselves, okay, we think if we could adopt, 50,000 clients over time, this is how much revenue we're going to generate. This is how we know what our costs are. But then from the context of a business plan, you want to get deeper than that. You want to come up with hardcore facts and like data points what justify everything you say in your addressable market, because ideally that's going to flow into your projections. And like someone sitting on the other line listening to this, is going to be asking those questions, right? And if they're not asking the questions, they're probably not interested, if you want to know the truth. Like, the truth is, it's the ones who ask you those tough questions are the ones who are understanding how dedicated and how much focus and research you put into your business. So a lot of times, those type of people, like who are reading your business plan and asking those very detailed questions, are actually the ones who are trying to understand it better, and then have that lens of being an investor, perhaps, for your business as you continue to scale it and grow it. So a very good business plan definitely has overview on kind of who the market is and like how do you capture that market size. And then the other two are SWOT analysis and Porter 5 Forces. These are PhD guys from Harvard who came up with like very strong kind of business fundamental themes of how to focus on valuing a business, understanding what makes businesses win, what makes businesses lose, what's an opportunity, what's a threat. And again, so you could take any business, like 50 years ago, if you took the newspaper, everyone would say, newspapers are very strong. They have newspaper boxes at every single corner. The opportunity is just to continue to grow, print more newspapers, maybe add additional languages to it. And then the threats was pretty low. I mean, there was, that was the main form of communication before television and everything, right? Like, people were reading the newspaper to get their news. Now, fast forward, 50 years, that's probably been completely flipped, right? And this goes back to my opening statement today. Business plans are always unique and diverse. They change over time, because nowadays, most people never read a newspaper. Print is dying. Digital news is kind of the new source of information flow. So, just understanding a SWOT analysis, maybe it's not something you necessarily put into your business plan, but have in the back of your head to say, if someone says, oh, well, I'm not sure about this industry because XYZ, well, that would be a threat or a weakness. But then you would have already the research done on the back end to say, actually, we've thought about that, and here's where our opportunity lies, or here's where our strength lies. So that would be on the SWOT analysis. And the Porter 5 Forces is a similar concept. It just has 5 other kind of themes that they focus on. And for the next one is competitor analysis. So very seldomly people ever start things from completely brand new. And in the context of that, it's, think about early stage cell phone, right? Like, the iPhone came out in 2004. It's revolutionary. Everyone has a smartphone now. Before that, there wasn't a smartphone, right? And the question is that really completely new, or are they just leveraging off of what was already invented? So where I'm trying to go with that is, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel has been invented there, and almost for every business, right? Let's start at something. It's just adapt and changes over time. So all that to say, that preface is understanding your competitors. The first thing anyone's going to look at a business plan is they want to have connection to something they know. If you have a great idea, but someone just doesn't know it, how do they build that? Oh, that's similar to this, right? So having a very strong and deep understanding of what your competitors are doing in the market allows you to show your value proposition and your competitive advantage. And I think I have a slide a little bit later on about what sets you apart and how to make you stand out from your competitor, a part of a business plan. But it's one of those things that anyone who's kind of familiar with your industry or reading through a report that you put together is going to be thinking about. So rather than them going online and doing their own research and formulating, you want to tell your audience or your reader exactly what it is, and then give them the solution. Don't make them go look for it, because again, the mindset is people don't have that much time. So you want to be able to convey all this information very quickly, but very factually and concise. So that competitor analysis is really a very big key to a business plan. And then the last one is just the industry analysis of just, it also kind of falls into all of them together, but just, what's going on in the industry more from a regulatory framework. For example, some of you guys might have some ideas of businesses what are cross-border, for example. And, recently, obviously, with the potential threat of tariffs and potential recession, what may or may not happen at this point, just having kind of guidance or thought process around that You don't have to be like an expert in the industry. It takes time because the industry is always moving. But just having a general understanding of what's happening in the space definitely allows for your business plan and kind of your messaging on market analysis to stand out and be like, hey, we've thought about every single thing here, and this is how we're going to handle it. So market analysis is definitely one of those big things what stand out a lot of the times, especially the earlier stage companies, like the ones who are pre-revenue. Those are the ones who rely so much more on market analysis to prove their theses about why this opportunity is going to be successful or not. And then, so this one is really catered towards a lot of those earlier stage, because this is your proof, right? Like, this is why it's going to work beyond just kind of, you don't have the financials to back it. So you have to create that story and that understanding. So that's on market analysis. Then management team here. And I purposely left the rest of the charts blank, by the way, because I didn't want to create an image of, a business needs to be so big and a business needs to be so small. But really what I want to highlight here is when you're writing a business plan and you're thinking about, starting a new opportunity, it's beyond just investing in the business. The person or, yourself, they're investing in the person, right? They're investing in the mind and management behind the business. So it is crucial, like absolutely crucial, to have the best partners. And these aren't things that come overnight sometimes. And, you've seen it in every very small to very big business over time. The business partners' mindset don't always align, right? But where do you want to go with this at the beginning? And you don't have to have your full kind of business team set out all the way from, president, all the way to controller, CFO, all your sales reps. It fluctuates. Some businesses are just very heavy and some are very light touch, right? And just understanding, when I say management team, just understanding the mind and management behind the business, because that is what ultimately an investor reading a business plan is going to look at. They're going to ask, back to my initial comment, have they done it before? And what is their value prop? Like, what makes them different? Or like, do they have a product or concept? So what you'll see quite often nowadays for a lot of these like earlier stage opportunities is it all starts from family and friends, right? So the founders and the leadership team, someone has worked at a big company for a bit, had their own idea, connected with a buddy, started a business, putting together a business plan. But what they do very, very strong is also add an advisory board. So this wouldn't be a board of directors, but this would be more of a, industry professionals who are known in the street, as you would say from a finance term, but like in the market as being an expert in the space. And, a lot of the times it's an unpaid role. These people want to get involved in very early stage companies. But as a business, like writing a business plan, if I have two businesses right in front of me and they're both identical, and I'm reading the management team to see their experience in the space, and one team has, advisory boards of someone who's already done something similar in this business, sold it, became very successful, and then someone else who's just, really passionate, but has no expertise, doesn't really have, a full kind of, management team there. It doesn't really have third-party support. It's kind of a standalone person. It's probably easier to take the path of least resistance, i.e. take the path with a full kind of thought out team with, industry veterans and a track record. So crafting your team, you don't want to put the wrong message in the business plan of saying, hey, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But at the same time, you want to show that, hey, it's not just like there's thought around this, and this is why this person's involved in this, and this is why we have the person as an advisory. But yeah, ultimately, when someone's reading a business plan, they're going to really take a look, right? And, nowadays everyone has LinkedIn. You go on LinkedIn, see a mutual connection, and you'd be quite surprised. Like quite often, like reading a business plan, or, for us, when we're reading, investor presentation, what came in, we're going to Google the person and we're going to see, okay, he's connected with, ABC from TD. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm super close with that person from TD. I can make a call and be like, hey, tell me about this person. Because the business might be great, but the person with TD might say, oh, this guy is, off his knockers, for example. Anyways, all that to say is management team is really important. People are investing not only in the business, but the mind and management and the people behind it. So one of the key kind of focus areas is just making sure you really thought about, who you want to represent that brand, because that is ultimately what's going to drive the value over time. Okay, this slide, as you can see, I've screenshotted this from the internet, but I thought this was very important to put here. This ties pretty closely with a bunch of the slides that I had before, except for the management team. And really what this slide is supposed to highlight is, what is it? This is like a value proposition slide or a competitive advantage. What is it about your idea or your business is what's going to make it stand out from the other 5 competitors in your region, in your space doing it? So these slides are very common, more from an investor presentation, but it could also be a part of a business plan, because as someone reading a business plan to say, hey, do I want to be a part of this? Do I want to invest? I instead of me finding out what makes you different, I want you to highlight it to me. And then I could go back and say to myself, okay, that makes sense. Oh, I've checked that. And you're right, that doesn't work, or that does work, right? So, today we're taking a call on Zoom. There's Google Meets and there's Microsoft Teams. To us, we're indifferent. We're the end user because we just use it and it's great. But if you can see over time, like what everyone's trying to do on all these various platforms is, some of them have, within the last couple of months, everyone's getting this integrated AI transcript recording, right? So it started with one, right? And obviously this is a market condition because COVID happened and everyone switched from in-person meetings to online. But nowadays they're trying to continue to enhance the platform. So basically what you want to show in your business plan is, this is how we stand out versus our competitors in the market. And what happens quite often is there's a lead, there's one person who does it first, like say this person, and then over time it's like, oh, I don't have this feature, I'm going to join it too, and then eventually, as all this, everyone matures in the industry, the other way for growth is consolidation. So then a big player in the space will come and say, hey, I love this technology, I love what you're doing, we want to buy you out, or we just want to grow the beast and just to get more market share. But understanding it doesn't necessarily on your business plan need to be made in this format. Like, as I mentioned, this is more of like a present investor presentation format. But basically what you're trying to do is show what makes you different compared to all your other competitors in the space. And the problem you're trying to solve in the market. So this is on products and services. Just continue here. Marketing plan. I think this ties, I thought this ties really well into, an entrepreneur who's about to go to market with their, business idea. The business plan's kind of written, and now it's like, okay, then let me go execute. So for starters, I put these 4 kind of themes that you want to think about. Is one is your target audience. And what I mean about that is, if you're talking to a potential customer, you might not show them your full business plan. You might show them more of a marketing material of saying, hey, this is how we could help your business grow, or this is why you should buy from us, or et cetera, et cetera. But basically what you're trying to think about your target audience is, like, why are you writing a business plan? Well, most likely you're writing a business plan with the intention or the mindset to go get investors or someone to help you support grow the business. But then, fast forward, if you're much further down the line and you already have a business, then who's your target audience? Your target audience is probably going to be more, how do I win more new customers, right? So just understanding that, like, there's different variations of the same material that you're trying to make. And I think that's the key messaging for the target audience focus, right? You have to know the difference between talking to a customer, talking to a competitor, and talking to an investor. All of them are going to help, build your business, or might be a competitor from that perspective. But the information that they want to consume is different, right? Like, someone being a customer just wants the best product. Someone being an investor wants the highest return. Someone being a competitor wants to just get information. So always writing a business plan, it's typically in the focus of finding an investor, But then just having that business plan is great, but leveraging off those principles and foundations you built in that business plan to cater different presentations to different audiences. And then I think when you jump over to acquisition strategy, it's really about, again, being in the digital age. No matter what type of business you're doing now, there's tons of different tools and kind of platforms for you to go market your business out in the market and gain some traction. The one I didn't put here, but what's definitely free and makes sense is ChatGPT. You could build free algorithms and code that just allow you to build websites and just sponsor and spam the internet very quickly. But some of those other organic methodologies is really social media, in-person events, sponsorships. So just think about kind of how do you want to go to market, right? And again, there's never the right answer. It's about the more the merrier. You want to be out there. Familiarity definitely creates additional customers. And I think it's really important just to understand, like, depending on your business channel and the community you're trying to, target, just having the right marketing approach. Because if I put the investor hat on again, and I said, okay, I'm reading through this business plan, great idea, love the business. Now, how are they going to go win customers? And, some of them, it's like, okay, you just really need hardcore dollars spent on ads. And others, it's like, no, you just got to join these communities or these industry events. And then those are the relationship managers with all these potential customers. So every business is definitely unique, but just understanding that marketing plan would be like one of the key information pieces you definitely need to provide in a business plan. And then differentiated positioning. I think, again, this ties into, when you have marketing materials, what makes you stand apart, right? So a marketing plan from writing a business plan concept, this is already going to be captured, probably just not on this kind of format of the marketing plan, but maybe it is different, right? Like maybe you do have a marketing plan strategy, what's completely different than everyone else. And if that's the point and that's like a winning approach, then absolutely you should highlight that within the actual business plan itself. And all of these three are really good, but I think here is really kind of the key focus area that you guys should be thinking about for the marketing plan in the context of an investor reading your business plan. So these are some industry terms about kind of tracking and like what's your key performance indicators of like, how do I know you're doing well? So most of the time you start a business, you go to market, you have some, sample or pilot projects that you want to do to understand kind of how the market's, taking your business, for example. And then, you might get some calls, you might get some orders. And a lot of people is just like, oh, okay, great. I'm getting an order, I'm filling it out, deliver the product, good, done, one-time customer. But a lot of the people, data is the actual play, right? And showing the growth in, maybe you have a repeat customer, maybe it's, you've signed up a contract for 1 year and the person came back to you the next year. And then now you're saying to yourself, okay, like, let me look at how many other people came back to me. Who's my repeat customers? Well, maybe if I give them a discount of 20%, I could sign them up for, 5-year contracts instead of 1 year rinse and repeat over and over again. So the marketing plan, all this goes to say, like, you don't really know until you've done it. And then when you do it, get that data, because that data is worth more than anything. And that is the relationship that you have, right? So, everyone on the line today is probably in various different backgrounds and businesses. But I think it's so important of like the data play. So in your business plan, you want to just emphasize whatever that data is, right? Like even if you're in a restaurant compared to a software business, compared to whatever it is really, but that understanding of how much a customer costs, what's that lifetime value, how much people walking into your store or looking at your website converts into actual customers, and then any spending money on ads, like all these things are like kind of key pivotal KPIs that an investor reading a business plan would want to see. So I would definitely, a marketing plan is super important. And, takes time to kind of create, and there's professionals out there that all they do is third-party marketing and help you promote your business. And it's definitely an angle to explore, but you just want to make sure that that marketing plan, because you're going from a proof of concept to actually getting something done correctly. So you just want to be very clear and easy with the messaging. Okay, next one. Financial projections. I do think there's another seminar and cohort on understanding financial projections, but I definitely wanted to put this up because I think this one is super, super important. For starters, I found this image online, but basically what you want to show in a financial projection, you always want to have at least 3 years of financial projections. Because if I'm an investor and I'm reading through your business plan and it says, okay, in 3 years, I'm going to make $50 million. First thing I'm going to say is like, okay, how much money did you have to put up to make that? And what's your plan to make it? If you go back to all these slides, well, here's my marketing plan. Here's my spend. Here's my management team who has access to all these people. And so like, there's all these assumptions will go into a business plan. And here's my tangible market. That's what I was thinking, tangible total market size. And all these financial plans, it's actually so important. It's very easy to come up with an idea and be like, there's 14 million people in Ontario. We think, this percentage of people would be interested in this product. If we sell it for $5.99, this is what our expected revenue. And we add a 5% growth rate. And I couldn't tell you guys how many times over time I've seen that of like, these projections, but without real substance or like assumptions behind it. And again, there's no such thing as overkill with kind of having your hardcore assumptions behind any projections you put out. If anything, you want to be overtelling on projections, right? You want to track it. You want to make it like what we call financial modeling, but you want to make something adaptable, right? You want your underlying assumptions to prove whatever the messaging you try to show in your projections. And again, in a business plan context, sorry guys, I have here utilize Excel. So in the background, you're utilizing Excel and everything. And you want your model to be adaptable. You want to show, here, best case, upside, worst case. And a lot of the times you would utilize a third party just to once you're at that stage, just for the financial projections perspective. But, even going to TD, like the first thing they're going to ask you is like, okay, can I see some projections here? And then they're not just going to take it at face value at the business plan. They're going to see, revenue year 1, year 2, year 3, but then they're going to say offline, hey, can you give me the Excel? Like, I want to see the assumptions behind it. So from the context of a business plan, everything's in PDF. You're going to have your screenshots. You're going to put in an Excel table there. Having a very dynamic and adaptable Excel version of a financial projection is absolutely key for any investor coming in. Because the first thing they want to know is like, how real are these projections? And, if I change my assumptions a little bit, how much does that change the reality of what I think about this business? So again, financial projections, I think, is probably an area where you guys would definitely want to utilize. Like, you could do it yourself. There's platforms out there, and, you're the underlying driver. But, ultimately the investor network, the lender network, all of them are looking, at kind of the professional kind of experts or a CFO of a business to really come up with something so that, they could get comfortable and, back the investment or lend behind it. And then just for the context of everyone, I left this link. It's writing a business plan from BDC. So I'm just going to pull it up on my screen really quick. Oh, did that work? Give me a second. I think everyone can see this. So BDC, on their website, they're one of those crown corporations what support Canadian businesses. They actually, when I was looking online to say, okay, like what makes a good business plan? I'm just trying to leverage some material. They actually have their own template of what made writing a business plan. So I pulled it up and I took a look, and I looked at pretty much everything what I wanted to present within my hour and a half today. But also I was taking a look at like the key things, because I'm on the other side. I'm the guy reading business plans all day long. And I try to like take each piece of it, like what really stands out, like which, you have 50 business plans on your table, like how do I focus on, how do I go through all of them, right? People don't have time. So that executive summary means a lot. So I try to like cut out the pieces what I didn't think would necessarily be like the most important. But anyways, if you're starting from scratch, if you need some ideas, I think these guys put together a fantastic template of, kind of how to just even start. And then, every single item here could by itself be a 10-page document, long story short. So it's about getting as much information clearly concise in a short enough time that the end user could read it, understand it, and be happy with it. Very hard to do, right? Like very hard to do. But all in all, I think that is, the key mindset behind drafting a fantastic business plan. And yeah, I mean, helping you kind of strategize and position yourself for future growth. So with that, I think that was the key slides with regards to the business plan. I did have other slides that, I was talking with the face people that I wanted to kind of incorporate. So these are more, now that you have your business plan set up, what does that mean in the context of where you're going as a business yourself? So, my understanding is most of the entrepreneurs here, they're very in the early stage here. And there's nothing wrong with it. Every single business started off. But why I'm highlighting that is a business plan definitely starts within this sector of the life cycle of a business. And that's what I'm trying to highlight, right? Like a company in a mature stage, their business plan is going to not really talk about the same thing, but they are going to expand for growth. They are going to do this, but their mindset, it's like, let me just go buy it, right? So, it is comparison, but I think for you guys just to understand, every single stage that you have a different audience and you have a different mindset that you're trying to capture, right? So from this context, just being in a very early stage, it's like you're looking for, growth partners, people who are going to invest into your business to help you grow it. So the context of the material that you put together needs to be in the mindset of like, hey, this is going to be really profitable. And, I'm here today, or, I want to start talking to VC, I'm here today, but eventually this is the line I'm going to take, right? I'm going to continue to grow. And then by the end, I'm going to have so many different options that I could to utilize. But every single one of these people, so like, buyout, IPO, like think of Amazon, Facebook, right? Like Facebook has a film. What came out? Well, Facebook had a business plan. It was right here. The Facebook business plan was so good. No one was doing it at the time. There's MySpace and all these things, but no one connecting your own local university, school, and community together. But, Mark Zuckerberg did. And then from there, he utilized his network with his business plan. His friends and family invested. Then he went down to Silicon Valley, was able to get this. And then fast forward, 20 years later, he's all the way here as one of the biggest companies in the world. But it started from that business plan. So just understanding something that's revolutionary, but making it easy enough that someone can understand it is really the highlight of where what it takes to write a winning business plan. I think these are just different type of financing options that I don't think it's for the context of what we're talking about today. Venture debt is another one. Equity financing, this is probably where I would start with for most of the people here. I mean, if you're in the business plan stage, you have a great idea, which is great. You write the great business plan, even better. And then from there, what happens? Well, either, you have a rich Uncle John who's going to help you out and give you a couple $1,000,000 for you to go to market and go pursue that business plan that you created, or you're going to go out to market. You're going to talk to investors. You're going to talk to venture capital funds, industries, and the players in the industry who could help out. Most of the time, it's done for startup companies or growth companies. And the best way to do it is equity, right? You're selling shares of your business. And the first question is, how much is the business worth? Well, there's no right answer to that. Like the stock market, every single day, stocks change price, right? And it's very liquid, but what it tells you is every day the value of your business changes. And how do we know what the value is? Well, it's perceived. A lot of it's math-based, but a lot of it's also like perception of the market. Well, how do you drive really strong value in the private market? Not to sound like I'm repeating the same thing, but just having very strong management team, clear and concise messaging, competitive advantage, a value prop, what stands out. Like these are, and all this is captured in that business plan. So, having a very strong business plan will definitely lead to a successful capital raise, whether it's equity or whatever the solution is. So I wanted to just highlight this one specific slide. These are more for financial lenders, but then getting into this last piece, and again, this is not necessarily exactly about business plan, but you write your business plan, you're at that stage, what next? Well, Canada is really great because they have a bunch of different programs, grants and tax credits for a bunch of entrepreneurs here in Canada. So there is some tax credits called SHRED. So if your business has any type of like technology or research and development behind it, you're able to utilize some SHRED tax credits, what basically allow you to get reimbursement for any of the expenses you did through a tax credit. And then Quebec has some of their more unique tax credit rules, but it's basically the same thing as SHRED. It's just called something else. And all these organizations like M&P and pretty much all the other competitors, they all have kind of, specialty experts in the space who can help kind of help you assist in getting a lot of these grant financing. So this one's more related to tax incentives. Like think about if you're a business, you have some technology play, maybe you're not generating revenue yet, but you have a bunch of expenses. Well, the Canadian government wants to help you be an entrepreneur. So they're going to reimburse or help you with some of these tax credits. So I highlighted a few additional ones as well, some grant programs. The first one is the Canadian Digital Adoption Program, helps businesses with their digital transformation plan. There's a immigrant investor program, a starting company, starting company grant. And if you look at, I put a star here because some of this stuff gets updated quite often, but again, like up to 5,000, that could really help with just, getting the initial, you set up a corporation, you set up your business plan, but you just need a couple thousand of dollars to do something. These are one of the programs you could use to also kind of leverage, and basically they're going to ask for a business plan, right? So, and then I think the last one is some of these other programs that are more regional here in Ontario, but these slides are meant to highlight and show that there's tons of opportunities there for very early stage companies to access different financings, to access grant capital. And, if you're an early stage company, the only thing you really have is a business plan or a proof of concept. So you need to be able to take that proof of concept and put it into a package, will make the other person interested. These are for, the gentlemen on the line who are a little bit further along in their lifestyle. They've already have a business plan or in the process of updating it. They're generating revenue. But there's also programs out there that help early stage companies access some financing as well to help them grow. A lot of the time, I think the businesses we see who we're telling, hey, you should talk to this group here, the business is growing. It's just more of a cash flow management problem, right? Like they have the customers coming in, they're selling, but they have payables that they need to handle, and the cash isn't coming in quickly enough. So these type of like small business loan programs help with that. They help with that cash crunch and allow you to kind of focus on running your business and what's important rather than, just being stressed out about paying bills. And again, comes down to a business plan. And then, I think that was the messaging for today. Thanks everyone on the line. I really wanted to kind of highlight what I thought a business plan and what it meant to, kind of stand out and be successful in the industry. Again, I think everything, going back to my opening remarks today, is leverage the material what's already out there. That's one of it. Second of it is business plans are always evolving and changing. So understand your end market, right? If you're talking to a lender, it's all about protection. If you're talking to an equity investor, it's all about growth. So just remembering that business plans are very, very adaptable and they change, but being able to take that billion things in your head, condense it, make it very clear. And if you're able to do that, you're going to have a perfect business plan. So with that, I'll open up the floor and let Bernice or Tamara jump in.
Well, thank you very much, Ben. This was a very insightful conversation with a lot of information that has been provided for our attendees here today. We do have a couple of questions that I am going to read out. The first one is, what if you're an individual owner of a new business? Should you build this team before seeking funds? And that is in reference to having a team helping with getting financing.
Yeah, that's a great question. No, I mean, if you're an individual owner, you definitely want a team for sure if you're going to go out to get financing, because the investor is going to ask what happens, basically the saying is, what happens if you get hit by a bus? What happens then, right? So you want to show that the business can run without you. In finance, you call it goodwill. So I could give you an example. If you run a construction company, right? You're out there every day bidding for work, bidding with organizations to see who's going to win that RFP. But what happens if now that owner wants to sell their business, what happens if that person was winning all their work because all their relationship was with that single person? So why I'm bringing this up as an example is understanding how much goodwill is tied to the individual versus the business. When you're talking about a business and a business plan, it's its own person, it's its own entity. So having a team is great, but don't rush to it in the sense of find the right people. I still think it's okay to talk about, I'm expanding my team. That's the game plan. Probably I would say have one or two identified kind of team members before you go out. That just shows you're not a single guy and you make all the decisions. You actually have a structure of you get approvals internally, because as an investor, you want to see that, right? Not one guy runs the show and holds all the relationships. So that'd be my general advice. And it takes time. So again, it's relationships and people are everything. So I would just say focus on finding the right people first, and then that would probably make it easier if you were to go to market to raise capital.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, so a couple more questions, including the ones in the Q&A. The second one is it better to go see angel investors or find subsidy for business?
Early stage businesses, if you could access grant financing, so that is free money, basically money with no strings attached, absolutely take that route. And that's why I wanted to highlight those couple of slides. Basically when I was doing this business plan, I was like, this is all good, but if I'm an early stage kind of business and I want money, do I just go to market right away? It's no, there's actually programs here in Canada. They want people to start businesses, right? It runs the economy. So I would say, do you go to angel investors or do you go, find financing? I wouldn't say financing specifically, but if you could find some of those programs, those tax incentives, those grant programs initially, I would definitely take that route first, and then take the second route, then going out to angel investors as well.
Thank you. And the next question, starting as a newbie, starting a business off ground can be very daunting. Who are some of the best business capital organizations that one can contact? I noticed that you mentioned grants. Would you recommend starting off with grants first, or the grants only pertain to a much younger group? I think you sort of alluded to that in your previous answer, but I guess for the purpose of the attendee, do you mind restating that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every business has its own kind of avenue for capital. So the BDC is great because they're a crown corporation, basically means it's taxpayers' dollars who fund it, and they're looking for business to invest in. The other group is accelerators. So for example, there's something called Mars Discovery District. It's an accelerator group. There's tons of them across literally the country, early stage venture labs or early stage, pre-stage investors. So all of these different groups and organizations have kind of access to capital to give. Some of it's free, some of it's with a board seat, some of it's with an advisory seat. But you'll see that quite often, especially from the accelerator standpoint, right? Think about like the local universities. So all of these have these like accelerated programs because they want their university students to like go start businesses. So every university has that like little hub there. And then they partner them up with investors and they help them put their business deck and business plans together. And they create there. So information is actually there's just tons of different avenues to take. It's not just the couple of ones I named, but there's definitely a lot of different
No problem. And just to slip in a little bit of a plug here. So the FACE Coalition, we administer the Black Entrepreneurship Loan Fund as the first lever to wealth creation and a catalyst for Black generational wealth. So we do provide loans to Black entrepreneurs across Canada. So I did paste our website in the chat as well as MNP's website. So you're more than welcome to take a look and see what it is that you would need. And then you can apply directly through the website. Apologies. Okay, so let me see. Oh, this is an interesting question. Once your business idea has been solidified and a business plan has been created, what type of measures should be taken to protect your idea or concept when introducing it to investors? Should it be legally protected during the early stages? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, very good question. So for starters, there's the NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Definitely, right? There's sometimes, depends on your audience again. So I know venture capital firms, I got a quote from a buddy who works downtown. He said, we see over 150 presentations a week. We refuse to sign NDAs. But then the problem becomes, well, I don't want to tell you my secret sauce, so I don't want to share my business plan and idea with you. So how do we get around this? So that goes back to my opening message of like, know your audience. So there's those business plans that you could send, have all your secret sauce to it. And then there's also business plans you could send that, have redacted information. I think the key idea really is you want to be able to get the message and that feeling across and left behind. And then if they're interested, even after that initial phase, they're going to sign that NDA because they want to take that second round and go deeper. So it's a very smart question. Obviously, if it's more like technology based and you have IP and all that type of good stuff, keep it close to the chest initially for very, very early stage conversations. But again, it's, if someone is interested, then they're more than happy to, if they're really interested, they're going to, sign that NDA and then go down that more professional route. And yeah.
Great. We have 3 more questions. What type of expenses can get reimbursed through the digital shred tax credits?
That is a great question, whoever asked that. Well, let me tell you, I'm not an expert in that space, but M&P is. So definitely follow up after, and more than happy to connect you with our shred expert within the firm.
Okay, and the next question is, how strong can you make a business plan that provides a service rather than a product?
Very good question. You could probably make it, yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of service businesses out there what are top of the notch and really good, like depending on what the service is. But I'm thinking like, what's a service business? So I see it all the time. Sorry guys, I talk for so long, so just
take your time.
Usually doesn't happen to me, but I guess I'm just human. Yeah, service businesses are really interesting, right? Because you don't have like a tangible product that it's easy, right? Like when I was selling drinks, I could show you my San Pellegrino here. But from a service, is like, okay, like how do I resonate my service with this person? Well, as an investor, someone reading a business plan, it's like, you provide this great service. And probably the number one thing you would look at is how repeatable is it? So if your service is lawn care or your janitor services, are you signing up 1-year contracts? Are you signing up 5-year contracts? Why are someone coming to you versus someone else? Is that, that comparison to competitor analysis? Is it because you're charging cheaper? Because, you want to get that lower market where, you're gaining market share because you have the best price? Or are you even charging more and that's your focus area, right? Like the Nike example, you're charging more because not only are we going to sweep your floors, wash your floors, we're going to do inside windows. We have guys who are going to do outside windows, like from a janitor. janitor perspective, but you can write a business plan from a service. It's just in the context of the industry you're working in and understanding that value add, like why would someone come to your service versus someone else. So it's probably one of those ones where you just have to define what your competitive advantage is much more, because like it's not a tangible product. But very good question. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you, Bernice.
Apologies for that. How do you value your business? This is the next question. Are there any links or templates to help with valuing one's business when it comes down to numbers?
Yeah, there's different approaches in the market. There's really three main approaches. One's called precedent transactions. What that basically means is you look at all the other deals, what happened in the space, and then you come up with ratios to say most of these businesses were bought and sold here. Here's average price or here's average profit, and then use that kind of margin. So that's called precedent transactions. The second way is comparable transactions. So think of technology stocks, publicly traded. All of these have like financial statistics behind them, but basically you're taking profit to revenue and you're applying a multiple on it. And then the third way is something called a DCF, discounted cash flow. So in the early stage businesses like yourself, you guys would mostly, everyone or guys and girls on the line would probably fall into the third way. It's called a discounted cash flow. So you're making a 5-year projection, forecasting how much money your business is going to work be worth after 5 years, and then discounting back that present value as of today. That though is understanding what your business worth is a very interesting question, because there's the value of the business and then the price someone's willing to pay, right? So just remember to have that hat on. And quite often we'd always advise, if you're at that stage or someone's approached you of like, hey, we want to partner with you or we want to buy your business, like those are the times you want to talk to an advisor, because creating a competitive process will get you the highest value. And then being able to understand what the value of your business is will allow you then to determine kind of the messaging if you're above or below what you should be getting. So there's three approaches basically to value businesses. For you guys, it would be a discounted cash flow, also known as a DCF, is the main way.
Thank you, Ben. And two more questions. It seems that we're getting quite a bit of engagement. So this one deals with the advisory team point that you made earlier in your presentation. So if you live in Canada and one of your team members lives abroad, is that okay? Can that still be good to put that person down?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this whole digital age thing, it's amazing. I mean, probably the only good thing out of COVID was everything is turned online now. So totally normal. There's no issue having advisory board outside of Canada.
Okay. And the last question, how do you create a cap table, especially when you are pre-revenue?
That's probably more of a kind of just a technical question, but basically a cap table for everyone else on the line is the ownership table. So day 0, 1 person, 100%. As they continue to grow or sell shares for people who are investing, you get diluted down over time. So you always want to keep it pretty simple. Like as you're way more advanced in your business and you have tax planning and you're raising capital in very unique structures, at that point, the cap table will be very difficult. But in the context of like an early stage business, it's typically just common shares. So you can use an Excel function, and again, I advise a lot of people, like, nowadays with just all the platforms and tools out there, like ChatGPT and Copilot, if you have the idea in your head and it's like, hey, I want to be 50-50 partners with this person, but I want this person to get 1/3 after a year, you can just type that stuff into ChatGPT or Copilot, and like they'll create a cap table for you in 1 minute. So very good question. I think from again, from the early stage perspective, it's pretty straightforward. I think it's when you if you remember that value creation chart, when you get to that final level there, that cap table is going to matter much more.
Awesome. I think that is pretty much it in terms of the questions, but to provide some additional resources to our attendees here, FACE does have one of the, well, if not the largest Black business directory in Canada. So you could go there to be able to get an idea of some of the businesses that have been established by Black entrepreneurs as well. We do have a Facebook group where we do connect with entrepreneurs called the Entrepreneur Hub. So you're more than welcome to check us out on Facebook as well. And you can find more resources on our website, because there was an individual who asked a question regarding some community contacts, but I think that framing it within the context of the resources that we have would be advantageous in a sense. But Ben, thank you so much for the time, and thank you to all who have been here with us for the first session of the webinar series, Crafting a Winning Business Plan. This session is also going to be had on Thursday. It's going to be held on Thursday in French. So for those of you who know of anybody who would like to get this information, but in French, you're more than welcome to direct them to the Eventbrite link for them to register. But before we close, Ben, is there anything you would like to provide in closing? And Tamara as well, who is the project coordinator for the program.
Yeah, I just want to say, really excited for all the entrepreneurs here. ACE is a fantastic organization. Tamara and Bernice have done a fantastic job. And, it's my pleasure to even have the opportunity to speak to all of you. On Thursday, my colleague Bidia is also going to have that session in French. So if you guys are showing up, I think she's going to do even a better job than me. So definitely show up to that one. And then, just to your last point there, Bernice, guys, if you really want to know how to be successful, look at some of the businesses FACE's already kind of participated and grown with, and it goes back to the business plan, right? Like, what did they do? What allowed them to, access this type of, community? So, they're always available to connect and chat, and so is M&P on our side. So, just thanks again, everyone, and really happy to be here.
Thank you. And Tamara, any closing words, especially as the program will be coming up soon?
Yes, thank you so much, Bernice, for the opportunity to give a little plug to our TD Propelling Black Entrepreneurship Program. So for everyone on the line, stay tuned. Follow us on social media if you're not already doing so. So you'll be able to get live updates as we move closer to launching the program. And through this program, you may have the opportunity to get one-on-one support in preparing your business plan, financial projections, or tax filings from experts at M&P. So imagine having the opportunity to work with someone like Ben or Bidia, who will really walk you through the process. We're super excited about this. So these workshops are kind of like a foray into the program. So stay tuned, and we hope to see you for the future workshops and potentially as a program participant as the program launches. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Do have a pleasant rest of your evening, and we hope to see you soon. Ben, thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.